What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 325 of AskGSM here today for Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your questions in next week's edition. So we're going to just get right into it today just because we have 3 full pages worth of questions, and it kind of bleeds onto a 4th page too. Probably the most amount of questions I've gotten in many months. So I'm probably not going to spend as much time on each question as I would like, just because I don't want to sit here for 2 hours. And we have before. God knows we've done like 3-hour episodes of this show before, but I wouldn't do that to you guys, at least not today. It's not some sort of special occasion, so we won't make this any longer, hopefully, than usual. So that being said, first question comes from Elena the Y from YouTube. First off, shout out to the Raw roster sitting around in the back, not doing anything while Randy Orton murders one of the respected co-workers. That's extra funny when you realize the show ends with a bunch of wrestlers showing up to help keep Kevin Owens, WWE's #1 friend-betraying character, from getting beaten up. Street Profits care more to protect Kevin Owens from getting punched by Murphy, but let Matt Hardy get his skull crushed in front of a bunch of crying children. Is Matt Hardy just not liked in the locker room? Yeah, that was the first thing I said to Alexis while we were watching that angle on Raw, which was great. That opening segment on Raw this week I thought was awesome. But the idea that not a single soul would come out to help Matt Hardy speaks volumes. Is he just not liked? Do people not care about Matt Hardy? What's going on there? Because, like you said, Kevin Owens has betrayed Sami Zayn. He's betrayed Kofi Kingston, the New Day. He betrayed Chris Jericho a couple of years ago. What makes Kevin Owens so beloved on Raw nowadays and not Matt Hardy? That was sad to watch, that not a single soul. I think it spoke more about not Matt Hardy, but rather the entire Raw roster. That nobody, the men, the women, not even the fucking commentators, and not a single person went out there to go save Matt Hardy from Randy Orton. What a bunch of assholes. Fuck the Raw roster. My God, that's shitty. But overall, though, in all seriousness, I thought it was a great angle, and I thought it was an awesome way to kick off the show. Everything they've been doing with Orton for the last 3 weeks, since the whole Edge thing right after the Rumble, has been awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next. And if that's it for Matt Hardy, then that was a hell of a way to go out. Elena's second question here. Considering it took Ricochet 7 minutes of back and forth 50-50 action to defeat Carl Anderson on Raw, I'm not liking his chances against Brock Lesnar. Remember literally 3 weeks ago when Drew McIntyre beat Anderson and Luke Gallows in a handicap match in 2 minutes, I assume you meant to say. And it only went 2 minutes because McIntyre was screwing around. If it takes Ricochet 7 minutes to defeat a good brother, how long can a Ricochet-Lesnar match possibly be? No, you're absolutely right. I mean, again, I've overall enjoyed Raw on the whole for the better part of the past month or two. But there are some things that I got to tweak a little bit. First of all, I'm glad Ricochet didn't beat AJ Styles. Like, if AJ is indeed facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania, which I don't think anyone asked about this week, but I'm in favor of that. I'll talk more about that on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow. But I'm in favor of that personally. If that's the direction they're going in, they can't have AJ losing to Ricochet in a random Raw match. I know they had history last year, but still. Ricochet's got to pick up wins, but not against someone like an AJ who will be involved in a far more prominent match at WrestleMania than he will be. Then again, for him to take 7 minutes, it took 7 minutes for Ricochet to beat Carl Anderson. It's completely unrealistic when you consider, like you said, McIntyre beat Gallows and Anderson in mere minutes on Raw a few weeks ago. So I thought that was silly. The match was fine. It was a nice little match. But the idea that it took him 7 minutes to defeat Carl Anderson, of all people, is kind of comical when you're trying to build up Ricochet as a legitimate threat to Brock Lesnar. We all know Ricochet ain't beating Brock. It's more a question of how long is it going to take Brock Lesnar to beat Ricochet. It took him fucking 8 seconds, supposedly, not even supposedly, it did, to beat Kofi Kingston on SmackDown 4 months ago. And Kofi is not much different than Ricochet. Ricochet could do some more high-flying moves. I think Kofi just got unlucky. Rey Mysterio was in there for a while with Brock, as was Finn Balor. So I think if they give it some time, it'll be a fun match. But you're right. Why am I supposed to take this guy as a threat when he can't even beat Carl Anderson in under 5 minutes? Their next question. It's interesting between out of all the brands, SmackDown is primarily existing to push Super Showdown. Like you'd think WWE is an all-encompassing brand, quote-unquote, would feel like this, but Raw's felt like its own functional wrestling show as of late. Sure, it's still at least an hour too long, but it's promoting Raw superstars doing Raw things for the benefit of Raw. Of the 6 announced matches, 4 are from SmackDown for Super Showdown. The only real match from Raw is Lesnar's title defense against Ricochet, which doesn't get a lot of promo or build because Brock's barely on the shows. And the other Raw match is for the Takai Trophy. I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce it. The trophy, the gauntlet match, whatever. With most of the promotion for that being Jerry Lawler saying, "Wow, that seems cool," as they show the match graphic and everyone moving on. How did we get to this point? I didn't really think about that. You're right, that the Super Showdown card is primarily SmackDown matches. And the Royal Rumble was no different, too. It felt like the Rumble was a lot of SmackDown matches, too. They had Sheamus and Shorty G, albeit on the kickoff show. They had that, Bayley, Lacey Evans, Bray Wyatt, and The Fiend. I feel like they had another match. Let's see. I feel like Royal Rumble was mostly SmackDown matches. Royal Rumble 2020. Because I know they didn't do like Strowman and Nakamura. They didn't do The Miz and Morrison versus New Day. But they did do a bunch of... Roman Reigns and King Corbin, obviously. So we had, let's see, of the 8 matches at the Royal Rumble, we had 1, and that's including the kickoff show. Sheamus and Shorty G was 1. Roman and Corbin was 2. Bayley and Lacey was 3. And The Fiend and Daniel Bryan was 4. And then, obviously, they were involved in the Women's Rumble and the Men's Rumble. So really, they had like 6 out of the 8 matches on that show. Raw had 4, if you include the 2 Rumbles. They had Andrade and Humberto. They had Becky and Asuka. And I think that was it, because Brock didn't have a WWE title match. So yeah, SmackDown dominated that show too. So they're all over these pay-per-views, but the show still sucks. I mean, I think the bigger takeaway from the SmackDown brand right now isn't that it's existing to promote Super Showdown. That's not why the show is lame, because it was lame long before that too. It was lame last month. It was lame the month before that. It was lame in November too. They got to figure what the fuck is up with SmackDown. They got to figure out what's wrong with the show and then go from there, because it just has not been entertaining for the better part of the move to Fox in October. For the better part of this Fox run, the show has been incredibly lame. It's literally the new Raw equivalent to SmackDown. Whatever Raw was a year or 2, 3 years ago is now what SmackDown is on Fox. And it's sad to see, because the show was so good when they first broke off and it did the brand split 3-4 years ago in 2016. SmackDown just, it's not entertaining anymore from week to week. So, yeah, it's weird that SmackDown, it's not even that it's existing to promote Super Showdown, because, yeah, they have Roman and Corbin again. They have Goldberg and Wyatt again. They have the women's match again. And the tag team title match. I like the tag team stuff, but like a lot of the feuds on that show right now, I could not give 2 shits about. Naomi I like, but Bayley has just been a complete disappointment as champion so far. I think that's safe to say. Roman and Corbin speaks for itself. And the Goldberg and Wyatt thing, I don't really mind too much, as long as, Wyatt wins, obviously. But like, they're still doing the Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Elias bullshit. They're still doing Braun Strowman and Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, who fucking cares, dude? We gotta move on. I know they're still doing Mandy Rose and Otis, and that's great. I'm enjoying that. But, like, that's not enough to make SmackDown a worthwhile show from week to week. Their 4th question here. I know we've gone over this topic before, but I had an awkward time watching AEW Dynamite and explaining to one of my non-internet obsessed friends why Brandy Rhodes is now completely divorced from the Nightmare Collective. I guess they didn't really explain why it started either, or what was it about. It's the right call, but they couldn't find a random minute of Dynamite to air the character development stuff from social media that explains what the hell is going on to the audience. I don't think anyone in AEW has realized the impracticality of supplementary material being required to understand the continuity changes in the main show yet. So basically what Elena is saying here is that they're doing good work with explaining some stuff when it comes to, like, they're airing the Dark Order stuff on TV, which I like. But, like, for example, obviously I don't know your friend, but, like, Alexis is on the internet. She didn't see the video, though. She's not as much on Twitter and social media and following the AEW stuff as much as I am, as closely as I am. So she would have had no fucking clue about the Nightmare Collective bullshit unless I told her, which I did. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people, just because AEW is an not internet, but like it's more of a hardcore-based promotion for like us hardcore fans who, want an alternative to WWE, blah, blah, blah. And I love WWE, but I also want something more that's different than WWE. And AEW provides that. But not everyone that watches the show, or everyone that they expect to watch the show, is going to follow along with their YouTube channel and their social media pages. Hey, WWE does the same exact thing. They do a lot of great content on their YouTube channel, on their Twitter pages, on Facebook. A lot of that does not see the light of day on the main shows. The thing is that the issue with that is it's a lot of great content not making its way onto the shows, but it has nothing to do with continuity and stuff like that. It doesn't really affect the main storylines. They literally blew off, AEW did, a main storyline in the show with the Nightmare Collective on fucking Twitter. Again, I'm glad it's over. I hate to nitpick, but Elena's absolutely right. Like, how do they explain this to the main audience that they expect to tune into these shows from week to week on TNT, maybe not exactly following everything they're doing online? How do they expect them to, keep along with this type of shit if they're not airing it on the main show? Like, for example, the MJF thing with the Butcher and the Blade. They ended up doing it on TV like a month later, maybe even more than that. But they showed a video on, I think, Twitter, or they talked about it on their YouTube channel. I don't remember. I don't really closely follow the YouTube stuff as much as I do like WWE. But they did explain on there that it was MJF who hired them to attack Cody a couple months ago. But they didn't say that on the show itself. So, again, they kind of do this stuff on Dynamite, like, for example, I'm not Dynamite, but Being the Elite. And I enjoy Being the Elite. It's far from as entertaining as it was a year ago. I think that's kind of not a fact, but like it's kind of inarguable just because the show is, I don't know, I feel like it's really lost a lot of its steam from whatever made it cool a year ago, just kind of a show that exists now to kind of further some storylines from Dynamite. But that's the thing. They had Paige on Being the Elite this week, going to all the other heel tag teams saying, hey, can you target like, Matt's back or Nick's eyes, blah, blah, blah. They went to, the Jungle Express, or the what is that? Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, what is their tag team name? Jurassic Express. They went to the Butcher and the Blade. They went to Best Friends. Not they. When I say they, I mean Adam Page. That would be stuff. I mean, it's cool that Being the Elite is still relevant in that respect. But like, they should be airing more of that stuff and not just alluding to it, but showing it on Dynamite. Because Being the Elite is not a second show. I know it's on YouTube and blah blah blah, and a lot of people watch it, but it's not. It's not even AEW Dark. Like, that would be one thing, but I don't know. They got to do a better job of the continuity stuff. I completely agree. And their last question here. Of all the makeshift tag teams WWE had done, I would have never thought the Broserweights would have one of the best all-around chemistry of all of them. I didn't expect a well-shot, well-acted, actually funny series of road trip vignettes starring Matt Riddle, Pete Dunne, and the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Trophy. Yet it was last week's highlight. When was the last time you saw anything that ambitious from WWE's production team? And yeah, I know in actual television and film terms, a stoner buddy comedy is the last thing that you would call ambitious. But for pro wrestling and WWE TV in particular, it felt like such a positive, wonderful step forward in their backstage segments and character development. I love those vignettes too. I really, really enjoyed them. The thing is too, is that we don't see a lot of that with NXT. Like, I know WWE and the main roster tries that, and it's not always successful because they're not always funny. Like, they did it a long time ago with the Team Hell No stuff. I don't know if that would be the most recent example, but they did it way back when with that, the Daniel Bryan, Kane anger management skits. They were at the diner doing all this other stuff, Dr. Shelby, and it was amazing. Like, that was some of the best content they produced ever, and it was outside of the ring, This was for NXT. We don't see a lot of this for NXT. They do a lot of great stuff in NXT with, like, giving you a reason to care about characters in terms of like mini documentaries and vignettes and backstage promos. Sometimes they need more of that, I would still argue, all these months later, even well after their arrival on the USA Network. But they don't really do skits like this. And I thought this was funny. I love their chemistry. And the thing about this, too, I think a lot of credit has got to go to Jeremy Borash. I think his fingerprints are all over this thing because a lot of the shots they took in these vignettes reminded me a lot of the Broken stuff with Matt Hardy and Impact. Because Jeremy Borash was behind all of that with like the filming, the Final Deletion, and everything else. Ultimate Deletion, that was in WWE. But still, I think, he was behind that as well. I mean, Jeremy Borash has been working with WWE, I think, for the past 2 years now. Yeah, at least because the final Ultimate Deletion thing was in March of 2018. But yeah, no, I think he has a lot to do with that. I don't know if it was his idea or if they assigned him to it. I don't know, but he did a great job with that. I would love to see more from them in regards to vignettes and stuff like that, especially in NXT that kind of needs it. But yeah, Matt Riddle rather, and Pete Dunne have been an amazing revelation for the NXT Tag Team division. They still need more teams. I'm not saying the division is all of a sudden saved. They need fucking teams to face and defend against and stuff like that. But they have been the one team I never expected or never really knew I wanted until we got it. And they've been just an awesome gem, a hidden gem on the show. Not even hidden anymore because people are realizing how good they are for the past couple of weeks, and I'm loving it. And their matches are great, too. I think that match from TakeOver Portland was, a lot of people would say, the match of the night. Matthew J. from YouTube, they just sent this in. Oh, shit. Wait a second. I know someone else... Joe M. Okay, so he sent in his question first. I'll just answer this real quick from Matthew. Also, I put from Facebook for Joe for some reason, even though I know it was from YouTube, because I just saw it this morning. Matthew just sent this in from minutes to midnight, not literally, but like right before I started recording. So thank you to Matthew for sending this in. Do you think Kevin Owens should go back to NXT in the post-WrestleMania shakeup? Nah, I don't think so. I mean, it would be cool because... yeah, he has the unfinished business with Undisputed Era, and like you can play off of that if you wanted to, but at the same time, though, like, do you really need to? And not only that, I feel like Undisputed Era, as I'll talk about soon enough, I feel like they're main roster bound soon enough anyway. So what would he really go back to NXT to do? I feel like Finn Balor kind of filled that void in going back to NXT as the former NXT champion, mixing it up with the current talent. Kevin Owens, I mean, Finn Balor is a big star too, but they really fucked up his booking. Kevin Owens to an extent as well, but he's still very much over. He has been far more successful. Like, that's not even a question. Kevin Owens is far more established, successful in WWE on the main roster than Finn Balor ever was. And again, part of that was because Balor got hurt a bunch of times. Bad booking, whatever. Kevin Owens has been far from perfect, but between his hot debut, winning the IC title a bunch of times, winning the United States Championship a bunch of times, winning the Universal Championship, and all this other stuff, he's been a very successful part of that brand. Raw and SmackDown, he's been relevant on all shows, popular as a heel, popular as a babyface. He's still getting great reactions. Finn Balor, people kind of like, not soured on, but like people started to just not care after a while, demon or no demon. So Owens, I don't really think needs to go anywhere. I know, like, it kind of sucks for Owens because he was seemingly being groomed to be the new face of Monday Night Raw as the babyface when Rollins went heel. But I think they only did that as a placeholder before they turned Drew and had him win the Rumble. So Owens isn't exactly the number one face anymore, but he's up there with Samoa Joe. If it's not Drew, then it's absolutely Owens. So I would not move Owens back to NXT. Although it would be cool to see him mix it up with Gargano and, Ciampa. Even though I feel like Owens faced those guys. Oh, no, he didn't. I think it was Samoa Joe faced them in NXT. Samoa Joe had matches with Gargano and Ciampa on NXT TV before they were officially signed. They were still jobbers at the time. I don't think Owens ever faced them, but I think Owens was long gone before those guys were ever brought in. But still, I think him in NXT would be cool, but I feel like he has a better place right now. I think Raw needs him more and SmackDown needs him more than NXT does. Joe M. from YouTube as well, his question was, I was listening to Solomonster the other day, and as great as I think he is, I could not have disagreed more about his comments regarding Elias. And if you didn't hear it, he basically said, as entertaining as his character is, whenever he steps in the ring, he loses all interest in Elias, and from what I've gathered, you seem to share a similar opinion on him, which is perfectly fine as it's your opinion, but personally, I would much rather see a show headlined by guys who I get invested in from a character standpoint, from a character perspective, such as Bray Wyatt or Elias, as opposed to guys like Ricochet and AJ Styles who are terrific in the ring, but I have no interest in them from a character point of view. So in short, my question is, what is more important to you, a performer's ability to create an interesting character or their ability to have a tremendous match? That's a great question. So, yes, I did hear what Solomonster said. Yes, I agree with him to an extent. I like Elias a lot. I really do. I just feel like the thing with Elias, it's not exactly his fault because Solomonster said in his analysis of the John Cena match that he's peaked in WWE. He's kind of reached his level. He's never going to be a main event guy. I don't think he was ever really destined to be a main event guy, to be honest with you. When he faced Roman Reigns last year, I could not have given two fucks because you knew Roman was going to beat him. I cannot take Elias seriously. My question is, and again, this may not be the greatest assessment. There's a few things that can go into this, and there's a whole debate here because it's not black or white. Better character, better wrestler. My answer, real quickly, is better character. But there are exceptions. If you're saying to me, yes, I want a better character than a better wrestler in the main event. I want someone I can care about. Alexis in particular, she watches all the shows with me. She's huge on characters. She doesn't exactly care about, she likes a good wrestler, obviously. Like, she loves Johnny Gargano. But does he really have a great character? Like, he doesn't have to have a fucking gimmick. Like, he doesn't have to be a singer. Like, I feel like his character sells itself. AJ Styles, like you said, you can't really get invested in him from a character standpoint because he doesn't have a character. I disagree. I think, he's the phenomenal one. He doesn't have to go out there and pretend to be a fucking janitor in order for people to get behind him. He doesn't have to have a gimmick. These AJ fucking Styles. Ricochet, I agree with. They have done a very poor job of defining Ricochet on the main roster. Other than, he's a superhero. Yeah, that shit is stupid. I agree. AJ, I would not lump into the Ricochet territory. So again, me personally, what would I prefer? Better character. But if you said to me, what would I rather see, an Elias main event or an AJ Styles main event? I feel like you would be a fool to say Elias. Why the fuck would I want to see Elias in the main event of Raw or SmackDown over AJ Styles? And yeah, he's got a better character, but he sings like... So here's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like I'm pooping on Elias, but the guy will never and should never be WWE champion. That's like saying Jeff Jarrett should have been the WWE champion in the mid-90s in WWE because he had a character. Just because he has a good character doesn't mean you should put the belt on him. Just because they're a great wrestler doesn't mean you should put the belt on him. Roderick Strong, for example. I love the guy. He's an amazing wrestler. On his own, he was as bland as fucking bread. He was as dull as a doorknob when he was on his own in NXT. And I love the guy. I thought he was a great wrestler, but the world is filled with great wrestlers. We need more characters. There's a vast difference, though, between the people that you mentioned there. Ricochet and AJ are on two totally different levels. Ricochet is an amazing wrestler. The issue is that he's not nearly as established or as well-defined as a character as AJ is. So they're not even in the same league. Bray Wyatt and Elias are not even in the same league. Example, again, I don't speak for everyone when I bring this up, but Alexis, she loves the characters. She cares far more about Bray Wyatt than she does Elias. She likes Elias. I like Elias. I have one of his t-shirts. That doesn't really mean much, but I like the guy. Would she rather see a main event headlined by Bray Wyatt absolutely over Elias? No thanks. It's not even a question. Elias, not that he's a bad wrestler, but his character can only go so far. So unless he switches it up, and yeah, he's a babyface now, but the booking has a lot to do with how people view him. Because he really hit a ceiling. He should have won the Intercontinental Championship from Rollins 2 years ago, not Dolph Ziggler. I was at the pay-per-view where he had his best match of his entire WWE career against Rollins. It wasn't an amazing match by any means, but it was easily the best Elias match I think I've ever seen. And he's had some good matches on Raw with Cena and Roman Reigns, but he's not a guy that I've ever taken seriously as a main event level talent. Yeah, he got squashed in 2 seconds by Brock at the Rumble, but Brock's a completely different beast altogether. Can I see him in main events with AJ, with Cena, with Roman, with Rollins? No, I can't. Not at all. Kofi was different because the guy was good, and he had more of a character. He had a story, and people could get behind him, and he was good enough. He's been here long enough. He's been defined enough where, yeah, I could see him as a WWE champion. Elias, no, I can't. It's like Jinder. The only reason Jinder won the belt was because he had a good physique and Vince was fucking in love with it. But beyond that, he had and he had a character, but he absolutely sucked in the ring. The whole Maharaja thing, the modern day Maharaja, honestly, it wasn't terrible. The gimmick wasn't great. People booed it. People hated him. He got good heat. The issue is that his matches were fucking terrible. So it's not as black or white as, he's got a character, so let's put him in the main event over Ricochet. I would rather watch a Ricochet WWE title main event any day of the week over Jinder Mahal. I feel like you'd be a fool to say otherwise. Elias, same thing. Elias, he's a great character, but no, I don't. I feel like Solomonster, what he's trying to say is that it's not that Elias is the issue, it's his booking. Maybe if they made him out to be more of a threat in the last couple of years and they didn't have him get squashed by Roman Reigns in fucking 10 seconds of Money in the Bank last year, then yeah, maybe he would be somewhat interested in a Cena match at WrestleMania. A couple years ago, if you told me that in 2018, I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, that's kind of cool. Because Elias at that point was firing on all cylinders. He was well protected, well booked, and people are still into him now, but now I feel like he's done the same thing for 3 years. He hasn't really evolved the gimmick at all. They turned him face and heel a bunch of times. He hasn't picked up any key victories at all. Oh, Cesaro, give me a fucking break. Like, that means nothing. Cesaro's another guy. Great wrestler, not really much of a character. So yeah, I would agree, but I feel like the lump Elias with Bray and then Ricochet with AJ it's not even the same thing. It's not even close. So to answer your question with, just clearly, it's interesting character I would rather see in the main event. Like, I love Bray Wyatt. I don't really honestly have an issue with him being in the main event. His matches aren't great, but I have no issue with him being in the main event because the Fiend character is cool and it's a great character. But to say that character should always take precedence over the wrestlers because they have, great matches and they don't have a character, I think is silly. It depends on who it is and what the situation is. And Elias, I got to agree, him and Cena does absolutely nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. I could not give two fucks about Cena versus Elias at WrestleMania. What the fuck does that even accomplish? Elias is not going anywhere. He's not going to the WWE title scene. Even if he beats Cena, who cares? R-Truth, if they did something with him and R-Truth, that would be cool, because Truth as a character, he's a fucking imbecile, but he's hilarious, And he's looked up to Cena as his childhood hero, as he constantly says, as he constantly calls him. That would be funny, and I would be totally fine with. Elias, though, it just doesn't work. There's a disconnect there for me. Moving on to the Facebook questions, FD from Facebook, first question was, with the unexpected ending of NXT TakeOver Portland, do you see the newly turned heel Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa squaring off for one last time at NXT TakeOver Tampa in a steel cage match, where their winner will punch his ticket to the biggest stage of them all, WrestleMania 36, to face Adam Cole, baby, for the NXT Championship the next night? If the NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley is able to finally bring the NXT brand a spotlight at WrestleMania, then why not their male champion as well, just to balance it off? Also, perhaps the loser of the steel cage grudge match will be banished from NXT and moved to the main roster, perhaps. A lot in one question here, but I like it all. So, first of all, Gargano, Ciampa, TakeOver Tampa. Ciampa, Tampa. I mean, it's all confusing. Anyway, yes, I do want to see that. Not steel cage, though. I feel like we've seen enough of those in NXT where, not that it would mean nothing, but I feel like they've done one with Ty Dillinger and Eric Young on free TV. They did one with Shayna Baszler and Io Shirai last year. They did one with Samoa Joe and Finn Balor a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago at TakeOver. They've done a handful of steel cage matches. Not enough for it to mean nothing, but I mean, first of all, anything is better than another fucking steel cage match, or anything is better than another 2 out of 3 falls match, which NXT has done to death. And I love the matches, but they do them constantly. So I don't want to see a 2 out of 3 falls. I don't want to see another street fight. Their first 2 matches at TakeOver a couple of years ago were both street fights. I think it was, New Orleans and then Chicago. One was a street fight, one was unsanctioned. It was the exact same thing on both shows. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a steel cage. I don't want to see 2 out of 3 falls. We already saw a steel cage when Gargano faced Adam Cole anyway at TakeOver, TakeOver fucking Toronto. As Sal pointed out to me on Twitter, at the Wrestle Guy, got to give him credit for this, Hell in a Cell. That's what they should have done a year ago. That's really what I wanted to see from these two. And people may have been pitching this 2 years ago as well. I feel like people were seeing this a couple years ago when people wanted them to blow off the feud and we got the last man standing match instead. We've already seen that. No more of that. Hell in a Cell. It's never been done before in NXT. I think it'd be fucking awesome. It works. The feud has built to a point where it's necessary. So I want to see it blow off inside Hell in a Cell. With the winner going on to face Adam Cole, I don't mind that. Alexis's brother, he watched TakeOver with us on Sunday. And I thought, he had said the same thing where like, oh, what if the winner faces Adam Cole at WrestleMania for the NXT title? I like that a lot, honestly. I don't mind that. The thing when they did that the last time at Survivor Series, Adam Cole didn't have a title defense the night before TakeOver. So it wasn't predictable, I feel like he's got to have a match at TakeOver Tampa. They're not going to have the NXT Women's Championship defended, I would assume. So they got to have him defended at TakeOver Tampa. To have him defend it 2 nights in a row. I mean, it would be cool to get him on the card, but do they really need it? Probably not. I think even Triple H said he doesn't want that to happen for whatever reason. I feel like he said no, just because it might be too much too soon. They're already kind of having a lot of NXT influence on these big shows. I think Rhea's match is enough. Yeah, it would be cool if they get the man on there too, but it's not really necessary. Rhea's enough. They don't need to have an NXT title match as well, though I wouldn't mind it. But even either way, we've already seen Adam Cole versus both guys. Not a bunch. I mean, they just did Cole and Ciampa once, but like, does Ciampa win and then get a rematch against Cole at Mania? Would the crowd care? Like, I know they did for Cole and Pete Dunne, but that was in Chicago in a smaller arena. Would the people really care about Cole and Ciampa at WrestleMania and the title change if it happened? I'm not sure. So I like the idea, but in practicality, like if they actually executed it, I don't know if it would be as good as it is in theory. And then Cole and Gargano, like in that case, that Ciampa would win. Because it's not going to be a Gargano and Cole again, especially when Gargano's a heel. So I like the idea, but I feel like it makes the Gargano-Cole match way more predictable, and it may not be practical for Adam Cole. So I'm going to say no to that. And the idea where maybe the loser is banished from NXT forever. I thought that's what they were going to do with Gargano and Ciampa at New Orleans 2 years ago. Because Gargano was like fired from NXT if he lost Andrade, and he did on TV. And then I think they did, what was it? The unsanctioned match in New Orleans. And the stipulation was if Gargano won, he would get his job back, which he did. I mean, but it wasn't predictable, though. Because Gargano at that point had been in NXT for like 2 years. So it was very believable that he could get called up, and he didn't, thank God. But that being said, what else do you do with these guys? And both of them have said, we don't want to go anywhere. We want to stay in NXT. But I feel like they've both been champion for a long time, numerous times, whatever. I mean, they're not two-time champions, but they've both won the big one. They've both faced each other a million times. They've faced almost everyone in that brand. And they could go, and go face more people. Gargano could have a feud with Matt Riddle if he wanted to, or Pete Dunne, or Velveteen Dream, which I don't think we've ever seen on a takeover stage. We've seen the match before on TV, but never on a takeover stage, I think. But anyway, so yeah, they could do that type of stuff, and I wouldn't, mind it. But I feel like it's time to move on for one of them. I don't know if they will. Ciampa has literally said, I will retire if I get called up. I would rather see Ciampa win and stay down in NXT for a little longer. I feel like there's more you could do with him opposed to Gargano. Like, he has literally held every fucking title. He's done everything. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him staying down there. I mean, I love Gargano, don't get me wrong, but there's really not much more with him you could do. They've already beat this Ciampa feud to death. They've literally exhausted every option with it. They've both been babyface. They've both been heel. Ciampa's been the heel. Ciampa's been the heel. Gargano's been the heel. There's not much more you could do with it. So I would have Ciampa win, send Gargano to the main roster, to SmackDown maybe, boost that brand up, even though, I don't love that idea just because SmackDown's been a fucking creative black hole for a while now, but maybe it can help them out. I don't know. So I feel like Raw has enough talent right now where they don't really need him at the moment. I feel like he would just get lost in the shuffle, but I mean, I do like the stipulation. I do like Hell in the Cell, though. I like that more than Steel Cage, but I also don't think they need to have the winner advance to WrestleMania because that would just make it way too obvious. FD's second question, have you seen the Birds of Prey yet? The Birds of Prey movie yet? If so, what are your opinions on the movie? Also, with most of the viewers criticizing movies being too woke, like what happened with Birds of Prey as shown with their box office flop, in your opinion, do you agree with their idealisms and why? I'm not even really sure if idealisms is a word. I mean, it's not showing up as a word in my document. That doesn't really mean much. But anyway, let me just see where we are in time. 34 minutes. That's not bad. So I have not seen the movie. I don't know how it's woke. I have not heard anything about it being too woke. You said that it was Birds of Prey. I guess you're kind of insinuating that Birds of Prey was woke, and that's why it flopped. I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a flop, but it was, I think, definitely the worst opening box office weekend in DC movie history, at least in recent memory, maybe. I don't know. But I think in recent history, if not ever, worst opening box office weekend for a DC movie, which doesn't surprise me. Yeah, they've hyped up the movie quite a bit. They have Harley Quinn in it. I guess they kind of banked off of like, oh, she was really popular, the best part of Suicide Squad. Maybe we can make our own movie about her. I don't know. I honestly have no desire to see the movie. I don't really care too much about the DC stuff. I saw Justice League not in theaters. I saw it on an airplane months later, and it just was not good. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but I didn't care about it. Shazam I liked. Wonder Woman was actually good, too, when I saw that a couple of years ago. I don't know if I'll see the second one, but I like the first one. I have no desire to see Birds of Prey. I really don't. It's not because it looks bad, but I just don't really care about the character, the Harley Quinn character. And I heard it was actually decent, too. The thing is, yeah, it flopped financially, but critically, I think people liked it. And it's not, oh, it's a woman thing. Like, I don't, if that's what you mean by it being too woke, like, I don't agree. I think that has nothing to do with it. Who gives a fuck? If it's all women, all men, mix, who cares? But no, I have not seen the movie. I don't really care about the movie. But what I did see, which I'll get to later on, is Sonic, which is something I think I said I wouldn't see as well, and I ended up seeing that. So maybe I will see Birds of Prey at some point. I've read the reviews. I heard it was good. I'd rather just hold on to my money. I'd rather go see the Impractical Jokers movie coming out this weekend, coming out Friday, than Birds of Prey, to be honest with you. I'll talk more about Sonic later on because someone else asked about it. FD's third question here. What are your thoughts on the Daytona 500 race from a few nights ago? Do you consider this year's race to be perhaps the best NASCAR race ever? Also, your thoughts on Ryan Newman's horrific crash at the end. I'm glad you asked about this. I mean, if you asked this any other year, I'd be like, nope, skip question. I have no knowledge about this at all because I didn't watch it. I watched it this year. You'd be amazed. You guys would be impressed with me if you're sports fans. I've watched the Super Bowl. In the last 3 weeks alone, I've watched the Super Bowl. I went to a hockey game. I watched the Rangers-Bruins game last week. I watched the Daytona 500, and I watched a couple of XFL games too. So if you're on my ass about getting into sports more, well, you're in luck because I've watched a lot of sports. And RJ is over the moon about the whole thing. Alexis's dad is super into NASCAR and watches the Daytona 500. Alexis, one of her relatives actually, Ryan Preece, is in the Daytona 500. I forgot what place he came in this year, but he's in it every year. I think he might have come in third last year, which is kind of cool. But anyway, I watched it with them. I know RJ watched it too. I didn't watch much of it this year. I was ready to watch it. I watched the first part of it when it started, and then it rained. That was, that sucked because it got postponed to the next night. And the next night I'm watching Raw, and we were doing other shit. So I didn't watch it on Monday. I caught a little bit of it. I saw one of the crashes, I think, early on, or heard about it from RJ. I did not see the Ryan Newman crash live. RJ sent me a link. It looked fucking terrible. I saw it on Twitter, too. It looked terrible. Thank God he's okay. How the fuck he survived that, I have no idea. It looked awful. It looked awful, awful, awful. Yeah, the cars were safe and whatnot, but you could not pay me any amount of money to be in a NASCAR race, to be in the Daytona 500, to take bumps like that for to borrow a wrestling term. I can't. I just absolutely couldn't. That would scare me shitless. I don't know. I couldn't do that. But I can't say it was one of the best ever. You'd have to ask RJ, tweet him at RJ_Marceau. Maybe he would have a better idea on that. I don't think it was the best ever just because I asked RJ how it was and he just said good. That's all he said in the text. I feel like if it was the best ever, he would have told me, or he would have said great or amazing or whatever. He just said it was good, so I assume it was no better or worse than any other year. But I liked from what I saw. I liked what I saw, and hopefully next year if I watch on a Sunday, it's not postponed again because I thought that was a bit annoying. That was disappointing. But yeah, I would like to watch more of it next year. And I saw the 2019 race because they were replaying that on Sunday during the postponement of the 2021 while the rain was going on. They showed the 2019 one in full, and I liked what I saw there. So I'll probably be watching it next year as well. So check back with me in about a year. And again, I don't know if I could say it's the best one ever because I've never seen them before. Prior to this year in full. But I liked what I saw. And the Newman crash, prayers and thoughts go out to him and his family. That looked absolutely awful. At noob_n_co 1991 from Twitter, their first question was, if the NXT Women's Championship is going to be defended at WrestleMania, do you think that the women's tag team titles could be defended at TakeOver Tampa? Yeah, there's a chance. I didn't really think about that, but I do like that idea. The issue is, who do you have them face, though? Like, they already did them versus Nox and Kai on NXT TV, and they're split up anyway, so it's not like you could do it regardless. What other women's tag teams do they even have in NXT? Could it be like Tegan Nox and Candice? Again, we already saw Tegan face the Kabuki Warriors, so I feel like that would be a bit repetitive. Ripley's already doing her thing right now. Yeah, maybe I don't want to see Kai and Reina Gonzalez or Raquel Gonzalez, whatever. I'd rather see a babyface women's tag team. They don't really have many women's tag teams down in NXT. They have a couple, but not enough to the point where oh, this is an obvious match to do. Yeah, Kai and Nox, but that was it, and they split them up. The Four Horsewomen, we haven't seen them yet. I don't know what their deal is, if they're staying in NXT or if they're going to be on Raw with Shayna, that we haven't seen them yet, so I don't know. They're heel anyway. They're not good at all. They definitely need more time in NXT. So I don't know. I really do not know. So I like the idea, but if you can come up with a good team, then I would be more sold on the idea. Will we see the return of general managers on Raw and SmackDown, and who do you think should be the general managers? MVP for Raw and Paige for SmackDown? ? No, I don't think so. I feel like if they were going to bring back GMs, they would have done it when they brought back the brand split or established it, whatever, with the draft back in October. I don't mind the idea of a GM if done right, but they never do it right, and it got way out of hand. We haven't had GMs for about a year and a half now, about a little over a year since December of 2018, and we basically had one anyway in Shane. So no, we don't need GMs. I don't mind your picks. Paige loved being GM, and I didn't mind her as a GM. I thought she played the role very well. An MVP for Raw GM would be cool. I like MVP more as a manager, though, or as a talker, an occasional wrestler. I like that role more for him as instead of him being a GM. We don't need GMs because the whole heel GM thing is just dumb. Paige, I think she would love to be back on TV in a regular role as the GM, but we don't really need GMs. That's the issue. At Iwagu91, your initial thoughts on the Firefly Funhouse when it debuted. I'm sure I talked about this here on the show. I guarantee you I did. When it first debuted 10 months ago on Raw, but I was intrigued. There were a lot of people that shit all over it. And yeah, admittedly, I didn't really know how to feel at first either, but Alexis loves Bray Wyatt. And as soon as we saw that, we really liked it because you could tell that there was more to it. They weren't making him out to be a goofy character, he's a kid's character. I know WWE does dumb stuff. They introduced Bray Wyatt Brodus Clay as the fucking Funkasaurus years ago. But Bray Wyatt was a different story. It obviously led to The Fiend debuting, and I liked it. I think the Firefly Funhouse when Raw was really, it was pretty bad at that point. There really was not much worth watching for back in April, May, June, July, August. That was the best part of the show for months and months and months. So I was intrigued, and I'm glad it paid off. Was it Fox's call to have a two-man commentary team on SmackDown, considering that Raw and NXT have stuck with the three-person team? You're probably right. It probably was because I feel like if WWE really wanted to crack down on two-man teams, then they would have done that, but they haven't yet. They don't need a three-person team. Raw had a two-man team for a couple of weeks there with Vic Joseph and Jerry Lawler, but they either didn't like it or it was only temporary, so I definitely think it was a Fox call to have a two-man team. I think Cole and Graves, I like Graves a lot. I'm not Cole's biggest fan, but they've been good so far on SmackDown. I don't think you need three commentators. Byron Saxton on Raw is completely pointless. I would rather they have Vic Joseph in there because he's a fresh voice, but I like Tom Phillips too. Jerry Lawler, they need to get the fuck rid of. He's just not. I would honestly prefer it to be just Tom Phillips and Byron. Jerry Lawler serves no purpose. NXT, I don't really mind. Beth has grown on me. She's better. Nigel's great. Morrow's great. It would be fine with just them, but if they want to have a female on there, that's fine. And Beth isn't bad. It's a nice little role for her. So, yeah, it probably was Fox's call. The more that you mention that, the more I think about it. His next question: if Cody were to beat MJF, who I've dubbed the Magnificent Jerk Face at Revolution, do you see him returning the favor by lashing him in Wardlow after the match? No, I don't think so. I think they're done with the lashing stuff. I don't really need to see it. If it was central to the story, and it kind of was when they did it 2 weeks ago, then maybe. But for example, when Gargano and Ciampa had their unsanctioned match a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, and they brought back the knee brace, and Gargano was choking him with it, that made sense because the knee brace was central to the story. It was Ciampa's injury, the crutch, whatever. That was fine, and it's also, lashing is a bit extreme. If done, I said this a couple weeks ago, but if done, occasionally, I don't mind it. I really don't. I thought that angle was perfectly fine. I had no issue with it. It's not something you need to do again or keep going back to. So that's what I'm going to say about that. You don't need to do it again. You don't need to have Cody lash him. I think beating MJF and beating Wardlow tonight is enough. I don't know if he is going to beat Wardlow. I feel like that would kill him. instantly because the guy hasn't wrestled yet. I don't know if they have Wardlow beat Cody. I'm not really sure what you do. I mean, it's a steel cage, so you can't do a DQ or a countout or whatever. But anyway, I don't see Cody winning anyway. My prediction is that MJF wins. I know that's spoiling my prediction there, but I think MJF wins just because I feel like it's way too soon to be blowing off this feud. And Cody, he beat Shawn Spears. I thought that was a bit premature. I know he lost to Jericho, but he's won enough where one little loss to MJF will not hurt him. It'll benefit MJF way more. So no, regardless of who wins or loses in the end, I do not see Cody bringing back the belt and lashing him. That's not really, I wouldn't mind it if they did, but I don't really care. Like, it would make perfect sense. Like, I don't really care if they do or if they don't, to be honest. And his last question here. Your thoughts on Johnny Gargano frequently donning Marvel-inspired ring gear at every TakeOver event since TakeOver Philadelphia. I love that you bring that up because I was watching this video that WWE posted, I think on either Saturday or Sunday. Might have been Sunday. Or Saturday. I don't remember. I think it was Sunday. It was like a WWE playlist thing. It was like Johnny Gargano TakeOver matches. And I don't know if it was every TakeOver match he's ever had. I think. I don't remember. I don't think it was. I think it was most of them, but not all of them. But anyway, in watching the clips from all the Gargano TakeOver matches, Alexis noticed as much as I did that every TakeOver he's done for the last 2 years or so, he's been doing Marvel-themed attires. Because we noticed, I think Sunday was Carnage, wasn't it? Wasn't TakeOver Portland Carnage? He did Venom when he was heel the first time back in 2018. I think for the Aleister Black match. I forgot what he did for the Ricochet match. He was Iron Man, I think, at TakeOver New York, which was cool. He was Captain Marvel another time. I think he was Star-Lord a couple of years ago. So yeah, I have noticed that. I fucking love it. I love Marvel. I know he loves Marvel because we talked to him about Marvel. This will always be one of my favorite wrestler interactions, more so for Alexis because he's like, her favorite wrestler. But we met Johnny Gargano at an Evolve show back in September, and Candice too, and she was really nice. But we literally talked to them for maybe 5 minutes. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Like, we stood there talking to him about, first of all, him and how big of a fan we were and stuff like that, but also, like, the Disney parks, because they go there all the time, and Marvel, and Endgame specifically, because I read his article that he wrote about Endgame last year, and I fucking loved it. And he's a huge Marvel guy, obviously, so we had him... we had him talking about that stuff. So, yeah, it was really, really cool. So, yeah, I have noticed that. I think it's awesome. I forgot to mention that when I saw him that, I love your ring gear, the Marvel ring gear, blah, blah, blah. But I do love that because I'm a big MCU guy. So I think the Marvel-inspired ring gear is pretty awesome. A pretty cool gimmick to have for each TakeOver. And it reflects his character, too. Like the Iron Man ultimately going over in the end and TakeOver New York. It was his, end game for him. That was fucking cool. He was heel on Sunday. He went heel, so he, played up the Carnage aspect. I thought that was great. So, I've noticed that, and I've loved it. At Jeremy8911, do you agree that the Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, should all be moved to Raw or SmackDown after WrestleMania, since they've all done everything they can do in NXT? Yeah, I agree. Undisputed Era, they might be able to milk a couple more months out of them, but they've already held literally held all the belts. Multi-time champions for each belt, for the most part. Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic winners. They've done everything. It's time to move on. If Cole drops the belt over WrestleMania weekend, which I feel like he will, regardless of who it's to, and he might retain. There's no guarantees that he'll lose it that weekend. But I feel like he'll have already broken the record as longest reigning NXT champion ever at that point. So I don't think he needs to retain, or he needs to hold on to the belt past TakeOver weekend, WrestleMania weekend. But I feel like they're main roster bound very soon, and they might as well just do it on the night after WrestleMania. Johnny Gargano even more so because he has literally done everything. Let's say he loses to Ciampa over WrestleMania weekend. What more do you do with these guys? Like, seriously, they've done everything. Even Ciampa they can move up, but he said he would retire. He might have been just joking about that. I don't know. But Gargano also said he wants to be down in NXT for a long time, if not ever. But I don't know. I feel like they've done everything. There really is not much more they could do with him. And people might just get sick of him if they keep him down there. And I know he's heel, and they kind of capitalized off the booze, but how long is that really going to last, So I feel like he's got to be main roster bound. I feel like it's a lot more likely, even actually, than Undisputed Era, because you're not going to do another rematch with Ciampa after Mania weekend. This has got to be it. Candice I mean, she has yet to hold the NXT Women's Championship, but I don't see her beating Ripley for the belt, so you might as well just call her up. She's been in NXT for 2 years now. If Johnny gets called up, then they can be together on whatever brand they go to. So, yeah, they should probably move Candice too. She's faced and feuded with everyone. Not feuded, but like she's faced and lost to pretty much everyone on that show on NXT. And I don't see her winning the championship. So, yeah, I do see her going up to the main roster before long as well. Jeremy's second question: do you agree that Angel Garza is the Mexican superstar that WWE has been looking for 4 years? Not just 4 years, dude, like for years and years and years. That was the first thought that came to my head, because I'll talk more about Garza in a little bit, because RJ asked him about him too. He also asked about Garza. But Garza is that Mexican superstar, that Latino star, whatever you want to call him, that WWE has been looking for a long time. Since Rey Mysterio left that first time and he kind of died down in popularity. I mean, he's still very popular, but like, they've been looking for the next Rey Mysterio since Rey Mysterio was still around the first time. They tried with Sin Cara, it failed. They tried with Del Rio, didn't work. Both guys are now gone. They were gone. I mean, Sin Cara lasted a long time, but he lost relevancy within like a couple of years, not even. Del Rio is a flop, and that wasn't really his fault. I like Del Rio, but the booking did him no favors. They tried again with Kalisto a couple of years ago. That didn't work, and I like Kalisto a lot, but I know his promo abilities aren't great, but he could have gone further than he did. I mean, Rey Mysterio can't cut a great promo either. I mean, sometimes, but he was never known to be a great talker. And they still pushed him to the moon. Kalisto's great too, but they never really went all in on him. They pushed him for a cup of coffee, but they never really devoted 100% attention to pushing him as a real threat in singles competition. So anyway, they tried with Kalisto, it failed. Garza is that guy. He has that je ne sais quoi about him. Just that he stands out as a star every single time I see him. He could talk. He has a manager, so to speak, I guess. I don't know if it's going to last long, but he has a mouthpiece in Zelina, and he could talk better than Andrade. Andrade, I don't know if it's his dialect or because he grew up in Mexico. I think Garza is from Texas, so he's more Mexican. Not Mexican. I think he's more American than Andrade is, in the sense where he grew up in America. I don't want to put, whatever. I don't want to say that as gospel. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm pretty sure he grew up in Texas, whereas Andrade was like a full-fledged, like he grew up in Mexico. So no shit, his accent's going to be very thick and like you can't really understand him. That's not his fault. But Andrade just, like Rey Mysterio, again, he didn't grow up in, I mean, maybe he did grow up in Mexico, but he's from California, so you can understand him a bit better than Andrade. I'm looking at the takeover question. I don't know why I said takeover, but probably because I was looking at it. But Garza is that guy. Take Garza and push him to the moon, because he is that guy to build around as your next Latino star. The pants thing, the guy can go in the ring. He's got a great look. He can talk to an extent. Yeah, he's the guy that they got to go all in on. And so far, I'm glad they've handled him the right way. They haven't like booked him to look like a loser. He lost Rey Mysterio by DQ. But it was by DQ. He didn't get pinned. He stood over tall on over Mysterio in the end. He left him laying on the concrete on the ringside. The following week he beat Cedric in like 2 minutes. And then this week he pinned Rusev in that tag team match. So far so good with Garza. I feel like Heyman is very high on Garza. I feel like Vince would take one look at him and be like, that's the guy to build around. And the cool thing about Garza is that he's only been in WWE for 10 months. He didn't show up in the main roster 10 months ago and is starting to get his big break now. He's been with the company for 10 months. He signed in April. That's when they announced the signing was in April, right after WrestleMania. He debuted in NXT TV within 3 months as part of the breakout tournament, which is impressive considering that there's a lot of people who, they sign who aren't on TV for like a year. It took them like a year to really debut Dominik Dijakovic as Dominik Dijakovic. He was on TV a handful of times as Chris Dijak, but to really, bring him on TV as a regular, it took a year. Garza, they debuted him within months. And yeah, he lost the tournament, but he looked very impressive in defeat. He was the biggest star from that tournament, even more so than Jordan Miles, who won the whole thing and isn't even there anymore. So Garza was in that. He won the Cruiserweight Championship within months. He dropped that within a month, and now he's on Raw. That's a hell of a journey for Angel Garza. Very impressive. So, yeah, he's the guy to build around. Very happy that they've been pushing him to the moon recently on Raw. He had a great match with Lio Rush last week on NXT, which I assume was his swan song from the brand to kind of explain why he's not getting a rematch of that NXT Cruiserweight Championship. And, yeah, I'm a big Garza guy. He's awesome. Who do you see Daniel Bryan facing at WrestleMania? You know, I was thinking Sheamus, and I hate that idea because I don't want them to do it again. But I feel like Sheamus, I've been saying this for a couple months, but I think Sheamus is facing Braun for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I think that much has been pretty apparent since like December when they started off the Strowman-Nakamura feud. So I would rather see that, obviously, because that's a fresh feud. He gets the IC title in a prominent match on the show. So I'm going to say Strowman, Sheamus, and then what do you do with Bryan? Like, personally, I would rather see Cena Bryan over Cena Elias. I think that's way more appealing. It just makes more sense. I don't know. I really don't know what you do with Daniel Bryan. Who else from SmackDown can you really have him face? I mean, he's already faced The Fiend a million times. I already know to Sheamus. Nakamura, maybe, but like, if there's nothing on the line, what's the point of the match? Like, I like that as a WrestleMania-worthy match, but Nakamura is so fucking damaged because he has not really won an important match in ages, or I don't think anyone would care about a Nakamura-Bryan match. So maybe that's where they're going, but like, and they initially teased it back in October, and then they just went a different direction because plans changed, and then they did Bryan and the Fiend sooner than expected. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what you do with Daniel Bryan. If it's not Nakamura, not Sheamus, not The Fiend. The Miz is already busy with Miz and Morrison. They're doing their thing in the tag team title scene. I don't know. I really don't know. Who else is on SmackDown? Corbin? Pfft, God, no. If that's where they're going with this, God, no thanks. Corbin and Bryan, I know it's a fresh feud, but like, I do not need to see Daniel Bryan. I like Corbin. I do not need to see Daniel Bryan wasted at WrestleMania in a fucking match with Baron fucking Corbin. Kurt Angle already got that treatment last year. Do not give that same treatment to Daniel Bryan this year. At Reborn again, John Ritland from the YouTube machine. Check out his channel, Real Honesty of John Ritland. Great content as always. His first question was, Dashing Chris Bay signed with Impact Wrestling. Are you familiar with him at all? If so, what are your thoughts? I am actually, because he's appeared on every show that I watch. He appeared within literally a month. He might be the only person to have done this. I know Deonna Purrazzo, I think, did this at one point. Not within a month. Like, she did it within maybe a couple of months. Madison Rain, too. But Chris Bay, I think within a month, was literally on 205 Live, Impact a few times, and Ring of Honor TV. That's impressive. That's amazing. I was shocked none of those companies signed him until just now. I don't know if he appeared on AEW TV, but he was on Impact, he was on Ring of Honor, and WWE 205 Live, literally within a month, like back in October or September or so. And the guy is really good. He is really, really talented. So I'm glad Impact scooped him up again. I'm surprised it took him this long, but I'm glad he's with them now. And hopefully they push him. I would love to see him be the one to take the X Division title from Ace Austin. I don't know if... I feel like they had a match on one of these Impact shows. As you know, he's been an enhancement guy for them for a while. But yeah, Chris Bay taking that belt from Austin would be pretty cool because he is really, really good. The funny thing is that I read right after you sent in this question, one of my followers had tweeted out about how someone I follow had tweeted out on my timeline that I guess Cody said something about Chris Bay, like on the AEW conference call yesterday, and how like, oh yeah, we would love to sign him, and then Impact signed him like literally later that night. Like, I thought that was hilarious. That's a move that you would expect from WWE, but as soon as they heard that, they're like, yep, we'll take him now. I thought that was funny. Anyway, John's second question here. Is the NXT bubble in danger of bursting anytime soon, or is the brand's momentum just too great to be stopped? No, I think they're fine. You know, people said that when they moved to USA, like, oh, doom and gloom, it's going to be a terrible show, 2 hours, this is ridiculous. The show is better than it's ever been. I think they produce better shows at 2 hours. Not every episode is amazing, but I feel like NXT has produced more must-see, entertaining TV the last 5 months than they ever have before. And that's saying something, because the weekly shows were very good, but they were never really must-see. They had a lot of squash matches, and they have that today too, but I think it's better formatting. You have a bigger roster. You need the 2 hours. Like, I was against the 2 at first. I've said that, the pros and cons of it. I wasn't a fan of the 2 hours, but so far they made the most of it. They're giving away big matches, but not too big, where it's like, oh, they should have waited for TakeOver. I mean, they should have for Knox and Kai the first time, but that's a different story. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think it's in danger of bursting anytime soon. I think people said that right after it got relaunched in 2012, and it was great, and they're like, oh, this is only short-lived. And then that got them on the network in 2014. Oh, this is great. The takeovers are awesome. How long is it going to last? 6 years later, they're still fucking killing it. So I wouldn't really worry about that. His third question, could you see both AEW and NXT reaching over and staying above 1 million viewers a week? Or do you think both brands have hit their plateau, so to speak, or is it too early to tell? I feel like if they were going to hit 1 million, they would. I mean, they have. I mean, NXT debuted at over 1 million, and Dynamite did too. Dynamite, I think, has a better chance just because they've been closer to that mark than NXT has been more often than not for the past couple of months. I feel like they have kind of plateaued. It is too early to tell. It's only 5 months in. We won't really know for sure, I feel like, until we're a year in. So we'll revisit this question in September and see, like, have they really plateaued? I feel like they have. Most shows, it doesn't matter whether it's wrestling, TV, whatever. Most shows, peak early, obviously, because people are interested. And then they kind of plateau out, they whatever, after a couple months. And then they either start to slowly go down or the ratings remain consistent at a certain level. So I feel like they've kind of hit their plateau. I don't know if they'll ever get above 1 million viewers weekly for both NXT and Dynamite. I feel like we're past that point. But maybe they will. Maybe AEW will get back to that point where they're pulling in 1 million people every week. I don't think NXT will ever get back to that point from week to week. It would be cool if they did. I hate to be the negative Nancy here, but I feel like realistically speaking, that's their peak. Where they are right now, 700 to 900,000 viewers for NXT, and then around 800 to 900,000 viewers for AEW each week. His fourth question, non-wrestling related, but curious if you've seen the Fantasy Island movie or not. What do you think of these cash grab horror movies being churned out just for a quick buck despite no originality? I think it sucks. I mean, obviously you're more offended by it than I am just because you're a big horror movie guy, and I think that's awesome. So you're obviously, it's a lot closer to you, like you've seen this, and John knows everything about horror movies. He is an encyclopedia when it comes to that type of stuff, and it's really, really cool to see. If you want a good horror movie, then ask John. But I'm sure you're heartbroken to see that they're churning out a lot of these movies that really, they're not good. And there's some movies that I've seen that I thought weren't good that I know you liked. I know you loved Hellfest. I thought it was dumb as hell. I don't know if I would watch it again. I had fun watching it because the movie was so bad. But, I watched The Intruder. I don't know if that was really a horror movie as much as it was a thriller. That sucked, too. I was not a fan of Us. I really wasn't. I know a lot of people are going to hate that answer. I loved Get Out. I thought Get Out was great. And I saw that, a year after everyone else. But I saw Us in theaters, and I was like, that's it? I don't know. I thought it was good, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. Whatever. It's kind of confusing at certain points. The Fantasy Island movie. No, I have not seen it. So, quick story for you. We were deciding between Fantasy Island and Sonic the Hedgehog movie on Friday for Valentine's Day, because I wanted to go see a movie. I had a gift card. Why the fuck not? We decided on Sonic for a few different reasons. First of all, I would go see a horror movie. We're going to see probably The Invisible Man at some point. I think that comes out this week, if not next week. She wants to see that. I think she wanted to see the Hansel and Gretel movie. I don't know if that was any good. I think it might still be out. I don't know. Or if it's coming out, I'm not sure. She wants to see Fantasy Island too, but the issue is that it was just 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's a long time. I'll go see Star Wars and Marvel and even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for 2 hours and 40 minutes, but some random movie I don't really know much about, not really. I haven't heard the greatest things about it, Fantasy Island. I know it was based off a book. The only reason why I know that was because I was talking to my uncle about it and my grandmother about it, and they knew Fantasy Island because they used to watch the show or whatever. I don't know if it's based off a book, but it was based off a show, I think, that had a different premise, and now they're kind of making it into a horror movie. They're making it into a horror movie genre. I don't know. I don't really have much interest in seeing it. If you said it wasn't good, John, I'll take your word for it. But we might go see The Invisible Man. It seems kind of dumb. It seems like one of those movies that you would see on the marquee of another movie. The Invisible Man, in Drake and Josh or some shit. But it's an actual thing. I feel like that might be based off of something too, because obviously it sounds very familiar. It's a pretty basic concept. But no, we'll probably go see it. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of horror movies out nowadays that are that are not good. I agree. I think I talked about this with Alexis a while ago, where what was the last really good horror movie that I saw? Is Get Out really a horror movie? It's more of a thriller, isn't it? There's a difference there. I don't know if it's horror, but I love the It movies. I thought It 1 and 2, Chapter 2, and the first one were great. It's probably my favorite horror movie in recent memory. I love the more old school stuff, personally. I don't like the fucked up shit. What was it? Oh, fuck. What was the name of that movie? It came out in 2018. Some girl was in the passenger seat of a car, and like it was her brother driving, and then she got like decapitated. What the fuck was that movie? I'm sure one of you guys will, enlighten me on Twitter or here in the comments. Alexis saw it. I thought it was fucking weird. My brother didn't think it was that bad. I just thought it was... That shit fucks me up. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see anything that fucks me up. Let's put it that way. Excuse me. I saw Flatliners a couple years ago. I think that was a thriller more than a horror, and that was kind of dumb too. So yeah, I don't know. I think the movies I thought were great. I liked Halloween. I like the old school stuff, like I said. I like the Friday the 13th stuff. That's not like, it might make me scared to stay home alone, but other than that, like, it's not like it gives me nightmares, you know? I mean, it gives Alexis nightmares, but that's a different story. I liked Halloween. Halloween was one of my favorite, my more enjoyable horror movies in recent memory, if you can call it such. The most recent one that came out 2 years ago. And I'm looking forward to the sequel that comes out later this year. Next question from Scarlet One's got a couple here. First one being, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars number 18. I thought both shows last week were good. I thought NXT wasn't as strong as usual. Dynamite, though, was like the best Dynamite I've seen, probably since one of their debut shows, their first few shows. I had nothing negative to say, to be honest with you. Like, some things were stronger than others, but overall, Dynamite was a great show last week. I'm looking forward to tonight. We're watching it again live tonight, then NXT afterward, for those wondering. We usually like to switch up, but we watched NXT 2 weeks in a row 2 weeks ago. And then we watched Dynamite last week, and we'll watch Dynamite again tonight because they have Cobb on the show. They have Cobb and Jon Moxley, which should be good. Cody versus Wardlow. Lucha Bros versus Hangman and Page for the tag titles. The number one contenders tag team battle royal. So yeah, we're watching that first easily tonight, and then probably NXT next week. But yeah. So yeah, there really wasn't anything about that episode that I didn't like. NXT wasn't as great of a show, but overall, I like the show as well. There really wasn't nothing that really stood out to me as being like, oh, that's terrible. Like, I loved Paige and Omega versus SCU from Dynamite. Even Rio and Nyla Rose, that was a very good match. Probably one of the better women's matches in recent memory. I'm not a big Nyla Rose fan. It has nothing to do with the whole transgender thing. It has to do with, I just don't think she's that good. But I thought the match itself was very good, though. Jon Moxley versus Santana was a very good match, albeit predictable, but a great main event. The Cobb debut I thought was awesome. From NXT, I thought Gargano and Cameron Grimes had a good match. The Bruiserweight vignettes were fun. The Lio Rush Angel Garza match was great. Adam Cole and Kushida was kind of underwhelming, but I thought it was a good match as well. So overall, 2 very good episodes of both shows last week, though Dynamite was the better show. Scarlett's second question, since I've asked about it pre-release, thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog now that it's out? Sonic the Hedgehog movie now that it's out. I liked it. Like I said, I'm not going to go into an in-depth review here, but I liked the movie more than I thought I would. The redesign is infinitely better. Like, it's not even a question. Like, the initial design was fucking terrible. It looked like a joke. The movie looked dumb. They had Gangster's Paradise in the original trailer. What the fuck were they thinking? I saw that, and I'm like, wow, this is just embarrassing. And then, I saw the second trailer, and it looked better. And like I said, we were down to 2 movies this week. We were either seeing Sonic or we were seeing Fantasy Island, and Sonic was an hour and 40 minutes. And I liked it. I like Jim Carrey. He hasn't had a lot of good movies in a long time. I saw The Yes Man for the first time on Saturday, late Saturday night. I wanted to watch a movie. So shout out to John Ritland, by the way. He had a bunch of, he was ready to give me a bunch of suggestions on Twitter. And I almost watched Wayne's World, but I wanted to watch something else instead. And I came across Yes Man, so I watched that, and it was a good movie. But yeah, Jim Carrey was great. The Sonic character was fine. I thought there was a lot of shit that didn't make sense, but overall, I thought it was, it was a good movie, so I didn't really mind it, honestly. I would recommend checking it out. It wasn't like a dumpster fire. I saw reviews that were positive, some that weren't so positive, but it wasn't as universally trashed as I thought it would be. And the same goes for Birds of Prey. I was wondering which movie would do worse between the two, and which one would be, have the less than stellar reviews, but I think both so far have gotten pretty decent reviews. I think Birds of Prey might have gotten better reviews, but Sonic wasn't terrible. Did you hear about Sasha Banks apparently going to guest star in The Mandalorian? I did hear about that. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think she'll have I don't think they'll, show her. I feel like she might be just, like Batista was in the, The Force Awakens, but he was a fucking stormtrooper. Like, I feel like it might be one of those type of things, but maybe she won't. Maybe she'll actually be on the show in a regular role doing something, which is kind of cool. Sasha Banks in The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian's a great show. The first season was great, and I'm looking forward to the second season. So, very interested to see what role she has on the show. The show won't be out until November, I think, which sucks. But hopefully it's here sooner rather than later, because I can't wait for it. And it'll be very cool to see the boss in season 2. Did you hear about Brett DiBiase getting arrested for embezzlement scandal and reportedly funneling his father, the $1 million man Ted DiBiase, $2.1 million? I heard about the Brett DiBiase thing. I did not hear about the embezzling to his father thing. It looks like Ted DiBiase living the gimmick over here, huh? Letting it go to his head. But that sucks. The Brett DiBiase thing is just sketchy as fuck with the whole, like, taxpayer dollars or whatever it was, and he was funneling them to, like, outside sources, including his dad. I don't know if his dad was, like, aware of it, but if he was, that's not good. And it's just so ironic that would happen with the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. I mean, it writes itself. It feels like something you would read on kayfabe news, but it's real life. Sometimes fact is stranger than fiction. But anyway, yeah, he's probably going to jail if he hasn't already. Next question from Scarlet One. Did you hear about The Miz's claim that if he does not main event next year's WrestleMania, he will quit? I mean, that's as empty of a threat as like a wrestling fan saying, oh, this is the X, Y, and Z happens, and I'll quit watching wrestling. Well, clearly he's not going to quit. The Miz will be here, long after WrestleMania 37. I don't know if I want to see The Miz in WrestleMania 37 main event. I don't know if I want to see him in that spot. I like The Miz a lot, and they really should have pushed him back to the main event years ago. But I don't think it's going to happen at WrestleMania 37. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, and he has another career resurgence between now and then. I don't know. But it would be cool to see him in the main event of that show just because he is all about LA and Hollywood and all that other shit. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be awesome. No pun intended. But I just do not see that happening, nor do I see The Miz actually quitting. Final two, we got a couple questions here. At E13A's got two questions real quickly. Did you hear about Baron Corbin calling Dave Meltzer a cancer to the entire wrestling industry? Yeah, I did hear about that. Corbin posted something about it on Instagram. So here's my 2 cents on it. First of all, I like Corbin. I don't hate Dave Meltzer. I'm not the biggest Meltzer guy. You shouldn't be calling anyone a cancer. It's not. I mean, I honestly, though, maybe I'm a hypocrite because I've said that before. I don't know if I called someone else a cancer. I feel like I've said that here on this show before, so I can't be a hypocrite and say, you shouldn't call someone blah, blah, blah. But it seemed like Baron Corbin was kind of serious when he said that, and it's probably the wrong word choice to use. And then again, I'm not a professional athlete being read by millions of people on Twitter and Instagram and shit like that, so maybe there's a better chance of me getting away with it than him. But if I'm him and I have that type of platform and he's paying way too much attention to this dude. If he bothers him that much, who gives a fuck? I don't really care about Dave Meltzer either, but his opinion isn't gospel, but I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Meltzer's the absolute worst. He's the fucking worst. He's terrible. Who cares? If you don't read his stuff, who gives a shit? Yeah, I've never really understood that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, blah, 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 his X, Y, and Z is terrible. Yeah, I'll make the occasional joke about Jinder Mahal, but beyond that, I don't think he's a cancer. That might be a little extreme. Especially when, cancer is a pretty serious thing. But, yeah, and I thought that was a little too far. I know Corbin isn't, he has no love lost for Dave Meltzer, but I think calling him a cancer and devoting an entire post to him on Instagram when Dave Meltzer didn't really look like he did anything wrong seems to be a little extreme. What do you know about Val Venus' comments on Nyla Rose? Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't read his comments word for word. I think I saw the Facebook post about how he said that, Nyla Rose shouldn't win the women's championship because, she's actually a man. Excuse me, she's transgender, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I saw it. It's typical, old man yelling at the clouds type of situation. I mean, again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. To publicize it like that may not be the best thing. If he wants to keep that opinion to himself, dude, whatever. Honestly, who cares? But, to say it out loud for other people to see, and if you're in that type of, he no longer works for WWE or another major promotion, but, people are bound to see it and spread it around. I think that's kind of a dumb thing to say. My personal opinion, I can see where he's coming from. Trust me, I get it because, this is different, and I'll explain why in a second. My cousin, for example, she's, I think, in high school. It might be a junior or something. She's on the track team. She lost the track meet to a transgender athlete because, again, the transgender thing is a whole other topic. Good, bad, or indifferent, everyone can feel their, a certain way about it. I think to have someone in a legitimate sport, bold-faced, I got to emphasize that because wrestling is not a legitimate sport. Who gives a fuck? If she's a man, woman, transgender, does that really matter though? I get what he's saying, but it doesn't, who cares? I could see why you would not take Rio as a serious threat to Nyla Rose, and I get that. That's a different thing. But that's like saying Ricochet's not a threat to Brock Lesnar. It's the same exact thing. It's no different. Transgender or not. It's a fucking fake sport, so who gives a shit? They could book anyone to beat anyone, so who really cares? But in legitimate sports, yes, I think it's a problem. because men definitely have a physical advantage in certain respects over most women. So to have, like, for example, I don't want to go on a whole soapbox thing about this. It's not what this is about. But I could see where he's coming from, but it has nothing to do with professional wrestling. Like, when it comes to actual sports, to put transgender athletes in there, I know it happened with the UFC, I think someone was talking about, but I don't know. And the thing that I'm thinking of at, like, a high school level, which I didn't even know there were, like, transgender athletes at that level. I honestly had no idea. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just had no clue. But, like, someone who was a guy that wanted to be a girl, is now a transgender athlete, whatever, entered the women's, athletics for her high school, and they won the whole track meet because they have the obvious advantage. I mean, because they're a guy. I mean, that's not always the case. I'm not saying every guy is faster than every girl, but it can pose problems in that case. So I get that. But that's real, though. WWE, AEW, pro wrestling, who gives a fuck? It's all scripted. If you want to say it's not believable, like, that's one thing I get, because Rio's a fucking twig. I mean, I like Rio, but, like, what is she, 80 pounds soaking wet? Compared to Nyla Rose, yeah, she's not really much of a threat. She beat Nyla on the first episode of Dynamite. That didn't bother me a lot. It just didn't make a lot of sense, just because Nyla would crush her in 2 seconds, if we're being realistic here. I know Rio's really good, but I don't really see the hype, to be honest with you, a lot, as much as other people. But it's not a real sport, so who fucking cares? So it was a dumb thing for him to say. If he wants to have his own opinion, fine. But, like, to publicize it like that may not be the most, that might not be the smartest option. At RJ_Marceau from Twitter, his question was, Mr. Marceau, even though, he's got 2 actually, even though she's a natural babyface, I've been impressed with Dakota Kai's heel turn and just asking your thoughts. Oh, yeah, she's good. I mean, like you said, we discussed this before, but she is a natural babyface. But they already have plenty of baby faces on that show between Ripley. They have Candice. Bianca's a heel, I guess. Casey already kind of fits that mold. I mean, they don't really need it. They already have Io and Belair, and Sheena got moved up. So they have Tegan on the babyface side. She was getting overshadowed. Mia Yim is another babyface they have. They needed more heels. They turned her heel. So I think it worked, and she's taken to the role very well. A lot. Let's say this. She is much more believable in the heel role than Bayley is. There's a lot of similarities there. Not only do they look alike. If you told me Dakota Kai was Bayley's sister, I probably would not dispute that, because they look a lot alike. There's a lot of similarities there. They're both very likable people. They're great baby faces, but as heels, they're just not believable. Kai didn't really need as much of a character shift as Bayley did when she went heel. Bayley is just, yeah, she changed the hair and everything, and that's great, but it's just not working. I don't believe her as a heel. Kai, I believe, is a heel, even though I think she's a natural baby face. And Kai, I mean, the booking of both women has a lot to do with it. But Bayley, even if she was a heel in NXT, I don't know if I would buy it. I think it just doesn't work. Kai works, though, in the role. For whatever reason, it works. So I've been liking Kai as a heel. I love the fact that she won. I like the pairing of her and Gonzalez, Reina, or Raquel, whatever they're calling her now. She's not super polished from what I've seen. I mean, they botched the table spot on Sunday, which probably worked out for the better, because it'll look more devastating as a result, because she missed the table. But I like the pairing of Gonzalez with Kai, because it gives her a bodyguard. I'm not even really sure who else you would have put in that spot, like, aside from Mercedes, but I think she's better on her own as opposed to being paired with, like, Dakota Kai or something. I don't know if they really have many, dominating women like they do Gonzalez and Mercedes down in NXT, now that I think about it. Yeah, they have Ripley, but Ripley would be perfect for that spot if she wasn't already a star on her own. So, anyway. They had Jazzy Gabber doing the same thing with Ginny in NXT UK. It didn't really work. It was fine, but they never really booked him to look like a threat, and Jazzy actually ended up leaving a couple months ago, about a month or so ago, much to everyone's surprise, because she was like, oh, I need to be there, it's my dream job, and then she fucking quit a year later. Like, was it really your dream job? Like, get over it. Anyway, I like Dakota Kai. She's awesome. I love the match on Sunday. I thought that was an awesome match, and I'm looking forward to what else we'll see from her pairing with Reina Gonzalez. All right. Raquel Gonzalez. I keep forgetting they changed the name a week or two ago. RJ's second question. I know we discussed it via text, but does anyone have a brighter future than Angel Garza? Seems to have all the tools. Yeah, Angel Garza is a fucking star. I talked about him earlier, but Garza has a very bright future ahead of him. From being able to talk, wrestle, he's got the presence, that je ne sais quoi. I'm a big Angel Garza guy, and he has flourished at every fucking level they put him in. He was good in Impact when I saw him there a couple years ago. I actually said that to RJ when they hired him in April, I think. I told him that he was like, oh, I don't know who Angel Garza is. And I'm like, he's from, or whatever his name was before, Garza Jr. I said, he's from Impact. He's good. Watch out for him. And look, he's a star now. So not to say that I called it, but, whatever. I'm not the only one, obviously. I'm kidding. But, Garza is great. And, he did well in Impact for the short time that he was there for a few years ago. He was great in NXT. He was great on 205 Live as a Cruiserweight champion. And now he's going to be great on Raw. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else he'll accomplish in the weeks and months ahead, heading into WrestleMania. I would love to see him not only get a WrestleMania match, but I would love to see him walk out of WrestleMania, not Humberto Carrillo, but Garza as the new United States champion. I think he's more ready for that spot than Carrillo is, or Andrade's ready to move up and on and whatever. Mysterio doesn't even need the title. He's already held it a bunch of times. So yeah, Garza should walk out as the new United States champion, in my opinion. I think that'd be the perfect spot for him coming out of WrestleMania on Raw. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM, episode 325. We are clocking in at around an hour 20. That's actually not bad. I thought we would go a lot longer, and I'm glad we didn't, just because I don't want to make this 2 hours. But you guys sent in a lot of questions, and I appreciate that. The thing is that I have no questions around 5, 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, and then I send out the tweets and the Facebook posts, whatever, on late Tuesday nights, asking for your questions, and you guys send them in immediately. By Wednesday morning, I have literally 3 pages worth of questions, and they're always good questions too. I won't always answer everything. There's a lot of stuff I get multiple times. I think at noob_co_1991 sends me a million questions about the Kabuki Warriors. I'll answer what I haven't answered before. There's a question you sent me about Asuka being a YouTube star. That doesn't really have to do with anything. Does she have a bright future? I guess. But aside from that, most people don't really send in repeat questions, so I appreciate that. If I didn't like your tweet or whatever, usually there's a reason for it. Sometimes I miss it, but 99 times out of 100, I will catch your question. I will feature it here on the show, and all that stuff is greatly appreciated. So continue to support the show by liking the video, dropping a comment, sharing the video, and subscribing to the channel for more daily content. Tomorrow we have Wrestle Rant Radio excerpts. Friday is my Ms. and Mrs. review, the latest episode in Season 2 of the show. Saturday is my SmackDown audio review. Sunday, I don't know if I'll have time to break down the Broken Skull Sessions episode with, who was a big show that day, depending on what time it goes up. If it's first thing Sunday morning, I might be able to. If not, then it'll probably go up on Monday. That's my current plan. And then I'm also breaking down the latest episode of the Ruthless Aggression show next Monday or Tuesday. So if you haven't already checked out that show, definitely do so in my reviews as well. It's awesome. A lot of revisionist history, there's no doubt about it. But it is a very good show, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, the first 2 episodes of it. So thank you guys, as always, for checking out #AskGSM again. I appreciate it greatly. We'll be back next Wednesday with another all-new episode of #AskGSM. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.